The United States has always been a nation of immigration. Colonial immigrants came to colonial Georgia from a vast array of regions around the Atlantic basin, including the British Isles, Northern Europe, the Mediterranean, Africa, the Caribbean, and a host of American colonies from 1600 to 1776. They arrived in very different social and economic circumstances, bringing preconceptions and cultural practices from their homelands. Each wave of migrants changed the character of the colony, its size, composition, and economy, and brought new opportunities and new challenges to the people already there. Old immigration was from the time period from 1776 to 1880. This era in American history took place from the Revolutionary War or War of Independence through the end of the Civil War. During these years, these new immigrants came from different areas of Europe, and many of the immigrants during this period came from Germany and Scandinavia due to the revolutions and political upheavals, and because of their Anglo-Saxon cultures easily assimilated into the new society. On the opposite end of the scale, the majority of these immigrants were from Ireland and were forced out of their native lands by the Irish potato famine and British persecution. There was a great deal of resentment towards these new immigrants by nativists. The political party created, called the Know Nothing Party, was formed to prevent Catholics from Ireland to Germany from entering the country. They wanted strict immigration laws to be mandate that all office-holding people be naturalized citizens. Their fear was that these new immigrants would corrupt American society and take away valuable jobs from true Americans. New immigration took place from the end of the Civil War to the 1920s. They came during the Industrial Revolution, and these immigrants came to America from these areas that had not traditionally supplied settlers to the U.S. The lands of southern Europe and eastern Europe, such as Italy, Russia, Poland, and Greece, as well as Asian locals such as China and Japan. Immigrants came to America during these eras mostly for economic opportunities. The vast majority of these new immigrants came here seeking work and the dream of going from rags to riches. Many newly arrived immigrants found themselves at the mercy of corrupt political forces like running boss Tweed's Tammany Hall in New York City. Nativism occurred during the 1830s and 1840s. Americans with nativist sentiments made a concerted effort to enter into the local and national political arenas. Nativism political relevance grew out of the increase of immigrants during the 20s and 30s and the anti-foreign writings that abounded during these decades. We later see this in the creation of the Know Nothing Party. The Know Nothing Party was a U.S. political party that flourished in the 1850s. The Know Nothing Party was an outgrowth of the strong anti-immigrant and especially anti-Roman Catholic sentiments that started to manifest itself during the 1840s. A rising tide of immigrants, primarily Germans in the Midwest and Irish in the East, seemed to pose a threat to the economic and political security of native-born Protestant Americans. In 1849, the Secret Order of the Star-Spangled Banner formed in New York City, and soon after lodges formed in nearly every other major American city. Chinese Exclusion Act of 1822, or the Yellow Peril, was an act that required the few non-laborers who sought entry to obtain certification from the Chinese government that they were qualified to immigrate. But this group found and increasingly difficult to prove that they were not laborers because the 1882 Act defined excludables as skilled and unskilled laborers and Chinese employed in mining. The National Origins Act was a law that severely restricted immigration by establishing a system of national quotas that blatantly discriminated against immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe and virtually excluded Asians. The policy stayed in effect until the 1960s. Melting pot theory is a metaphor for heterogeneous society becoming more homogeneous, the different elements melting together into a harmonious whole with a common culture. It is particularly used to describe the assimilation of immigrants in the USA. The melting together metaphor was used by the 1780s. Assimilation theories derive from assumptions supported by empirical studies to explain the varied process and paths that immigrants have undertaken to incorporate into the mainstream of the destination country. The salad bowl theory claims that there are times when newly arrived immigrants do not lose the unique aspects of their cultures like the melting pot model. Instead, they retain them. The unique characteristics of each culture are still identifiable within the larger American society. Much like the ingredients in a salad are still identifiable, yet contribute to the overall makeup of the salad bowl. This theory is also referred to as pluralism.